It's been a while. I've been busy studying science and looking after two pups who shadow me all over the place. But now I'm back to talk about some of the stuff that I really enjoyed watching, playing, and listening to this year. I've had family and friends ask me in the past if I want to do more reviews on this channel, but as much fun as I had raving about Horizon Forbidden West for 20 minutes, I've also come to realize that I'm that strange type of person who has a motion picture degree, but likes to turn off the critical side of my brain when enjoying media that I like. I have interests that I'm starting to describe as niche of mainstream. Yes, I did just turn the antonym into an adjective, but it makes sense to me and it sounds fun. I mean, I'm the type of guy who goes to see the Marvels twice and is looking forward to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. But at the end of the day, I'm Kenough, so I'm happy with that. So if you are interested, I'm going to hand out a few awards to some of my favorite pieces of media from 2023. I should be safe from the follow-up to my favorite YouTube video of the year, H-Bomber-Guy's Plagiarism and YouTube video essay, because I don't think there'll be any other video on YouTube with this eclectic a selection. Anyways, when you do list videos like the ones where I count down my most anticipated games or movies of the year, you always have to kind of start with the ones that you're the least interested in. Like, yeah, I'm interested in the game I put in 15th on the list, but the odds of me playing that game aren't very high. But today I think I'll start with something I've been thinking about all year. My favorite TV show of the year is Succession Season 4. I have not seen. It's correction.
Get CCTV all over the flat, inside and out. Only the shooters are nowhere to be seen.
We really enjoyed the first season of The Capture when we watched it a few years ago, but watching the second season earlier this year was such a highlight for me. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched either season of The Capture. If you haven't, pause the video, go watch them, come back later, thank me for the recommendation, all that good stuff. It deals with this ever-increasing paranoia about the reliability of what you see on screen. What if there was technology that allowed people in real time to change video evidence?
This ain't what happened, none of this happened!
To alter what someone is saying in a live interview, to change a politician's statements while they are saying them. It's one of those shows where each episode throws something insane at you, but it's plausible? And you never know what crazy thing you might witness next, from its frightening opening to its spellbinding ending. To me it's just perfect, 10 out of 10. And I love watching the title credits every episode too, so it gets bonus points for that. Come on BBC, give it a season 3.
If I'm not mistaken, DCI Carey, you appear to be enjoying this.
Staying with 10 out of 10s from the start of the year, in the original The Last of Us game, Bill is memorable for being this antisocial, deadly character, but one who has lost someone very dear to him.
Frank. Who the hell's Frank? He was my partner.
Episode 3 of the TV adaptation is dedicated wholly to fleshing out Bill's story leading up to before Joel and Ellie arrive in his neck of the woods. It's a beautiful episode about a man learning that he can love and be loved, and about the unexpected man who shows him how. But it's also a very sad and tragic story about what comes after all that is gone. A massive shout out to Murray Bartlett as Frank, but of course, all of the plaudits go to Nick Offerman, who realized Bill in such an extraordinarily beautiful way. Characters are important. I've had TV characters of the year for the past few years, from the likes of Beth and Stella to the entire cast of Sex Education. One of my favorite character archetypes is what I like to call the wild card character. Characters like Hal Weiler from The Diplomat. Hal is a fun character because his motives make him specifically unpredictable. Is he doing something for his own personal gain? Is he moving pieces into place for a bigger play down the line? Is he actually just really simple? The fact that his character causes us to ask these questions makes him really engaging and fun to watch. But he's only an honourable mention, because my is Charlie Cale from Poker Face.
Bullshit.
No.
Damien.
It's true. Charlie is this goofy, big-hearted character who finds herself traveling across the US, ending up in all manner of places. While trying to make a living off the grid, she meets interesting folks, and some of those people unfortunately end up dead. Charlie's dogged desire to know the truth when things don't add up, combined with her intrinsic ability to tell if what someone is saying is
Bullshit.
makes her such a pleasure to watch in every episode of Poker Face.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you. You're doing good work. Efficient.
Wrapping up the TV awards, I want to just give a quick shout out to Mrs. Davis for... As a fan of Damon Lindelof's prior works, episode 1 of Mrs. Davis made me so happy. It was weird, offbeat, hilarious. It was my jam. Betty Gilpin is just delightful as Sister Simone. The only disappointment was that episode was so good that even with the wacky stuff that would come in later episodes, the rest of the series was constantly struggling to reach the same heights that I felt episode 1 managed to reach, because episode 1 was so delightful. Well, that took a turn. I guess the critical part of my brain was wide awake for a bit there. Let's change it up and talk about some sport.
South Africa are back-to-back Rugby World Cup champions. They stand alone with a full Webb Ellis Cup.
Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you would know that I made a couple videos about the Rugby World Cup in 2019. So you might be expecting me, as a South African, to have my sporting moment of the year be from the World Cup. And you'd be right. It's just not from the Rugby World Cup.
And today, for South Africa, the impossible has become possible. The Proteas now have an official date with destiny. On the 26th of February, they face Australia and make a final of a T20 World Cup for the first time in their history.
The Proteas have a rotten history when it comes to Cricket World Cups. But this year, the Proteas women did what the men have never been able to do and got into the World Cup final. Sure, they didn't win the final, but that semi-final win was something very special. And I don't think my brother-in-law has ever seen me that excited. Talking about sport, in Formula 1 we had Kylie Minogue on the grid a few times this year. It's a thin connection to the next award, but... While Time magazine is handing out Person of the Year to Taylor Swift, and the Swifties can't get enough of her Eras tour, us lovers are watching with absolute delight at the fact that the Princess of Pop has had her most successful year in ages. Padam Padam bounced its way to the top of the charts and stayed up there for a very long time. This of course led to Kylie's new album, Tension, being a great success. My good friend Ethan likes to say during Pride Month that the gays lend their energy to their queen to keep her ageless. And so, on behalf of all us non-queer Kylie fans, thank you for all that you beautiful souls do. Of course, as someone who's been a Kylie fan for over 20 years, that award is a bit predictable. But this next award, you have no idea. Remember a couple awards ago when I brought up Mrs. Davis? Well, episode 5 ended in a song by French pop artist Juliette Armanet called, and I'm about to butcher some French here. I went and found out what the song was, who the artist was, and I just started to listen to it on loop. I went down a Juliette Armanet rabbit hole. I couldn't understand a word, but I just loved the sound, and it led me to my actual song of the year. More butchery incoming. I think I did a good job of dodging those pronunciations there. This year I dipped my toe into the world of fighting games, trying out Street Fighter V and Injustice 2, building up to the release of Street Fighter 6. I'm pretty bad at them, but they're fun to play and that's the most important thing. I wondered if I could get SF6 to dethrone Overwatch as my most played game of the year for the first time in ages. It didn't happen this time around, but against so much of the discourse about how disappointing its soundtrack is, there was one place where SF6 was my most played. According to my YouTube recap, Cammy's theme, Overtrip, was my most played piece of music in 2023. I like its sound, I find it very easy to listen to over and over again. It's good music to have on in the background when studying, and this doesn't even include how much of it I hear in-game. Which reminds me, I haven't even given out a gaming award yet, have I? Remedy is such a fantastic development studio, and I've been increasingly loving their games more and more with each release. Alan Wake 2 seemed like their most confident release. It felt like it was made with maturity by a team of devs who knew what they wanted to make and confidently went ahead and made that. It's the type of game that only Remedy could make, and this was them being better than they ever have been.
Falling down!
Well, now there's less monsters.
So yeah, hi, I'm post-production Damien. Turns out there was something I kinda missed. Trend began as a Dreams passion project by John Beach, and this year it finally came out as a complete Media Molecule original within Dreams. Honestly, this is some of the most fun I've had in a game all year. It is brilliant. I love it. This little train game within Dreams is also my game of the year. Every year I have a gaming moment of the year, from something happening in Disco Elysium that changed how I viewed the game's world, to discovering the unsettling hidden truth in immortality. My gaming moment of 2023, however, is actually quite different because it's not scripted at all. It's not any of the impeccable sequences from Alan Wake 2, it's just something very strange that happened in one of my favorite games. Story time. Red Dead Online is the online component of Rockstar's brilliant Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a game that I play when I'm not in the mood for anything else, or when I just need a stopgap in between major releases. I have a very particular way of engaging with Red Dead Online. I play as my lone wolf lady in Red Olivia. Now Olivia likes to keep to herself, just quietly collecting hidden valuables and running a solidly successful moonshine operation.
Alright, fellas, give them what they paid for.
One Sunday morning, I logged into Red Dead Online to start randomly doing whatever I would randomly end up doing that day. I was met almost immediately with a posse invite. This isn't uncommon, but Olivia's a Lone Ranger who has stuff to do, like ignoring posse invites and looking at treasure maps. Having found a quiet alleyway in Saint Denis to quietly dissect the contents of a collector's map, I closed it to find another player heading in my direction. I did as I always do as a pacifist. I waved, hopped on my horse, and ran away, realizing in the process that this was actually the same guy who had sent me that posse invite from earlier. I made a quick stop at the gun store to top up my munitions, only to emerge to see that this guy had tracked me down again and was galloping in my direction. Weird, but I've got places to be, so I headed off in the direction of one of the treasures marked on my map. And this guy proceeded to follow. It was so weird, but he wasn't antagonizing, so I just continued onwards. En route, I saw that there was a rival moonshine operation that I could sabotage, so I thought, you know what, why not? I hopped off my horse, pulled out my knife, and proceeded to pull off the cleanest stealth operation I had ever done in RDR2. All the while, this other player just stood back, watching, and thankfully not interfering. When I returned to my horse, he even pulled out the clapping emote for a job well done. I then spent the next hour and a half or so traveling around the place, finding my collectibles for the day, while this chap just followed, even collecting the same treasures that I did, until I waved him farewell and fast traveled to the opposite side of the map to do other stuff. It was the most random, inexplicable couple of hours I've spent in a game, and yet it kind of encapsulates the magic of Red Dead Online. You'll never know what kind of players you'll encounter or what strangeness you might be met with, because after countless hours of playtime, who knows, you might randomly log in one Sunday morning and pick up a stray for a little while. Now for one of the best cinematic experiences I've had all year.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Ken.
My favourite movie of 2023 is set in the tumultuous time that is the 1940s. It deals with the ramifications of nuclear testing and the horrors that can come from it. It's a movie with a strong emotional core brought stunningly to life by its cast. Overall, it's just an amazing piece of cinema. I am, of course, talking about Godzilla Minus One. This movie made me want to watch more Japanese cinema. It made me want to see more stories set in Japan following the tragedies of World War II. The characters are so brilliantly realized, the action is enthralling, and the titular Godzilla's devastating destructiveness is shown off in all of its horrifying glory. After I watched it, I described this movie as a treat. And it's always wonderful when you can describe a film in those terms. Now that the meaningless awards are out of the way, let's get to the real point of this video. Yes, I can hear you scoffing. But Damien, Captain Marvel's outfit is so simple. To which I say, yeah, isn't it awesome?
What the?
Just let me be a fanboy for a minute. Gone is the bulk of the Kree uniform, and in its place is something sleek and form-fitting, especially the boots. The new boots are 100 times better, and they also allow Bree to carry a mini Nick Fury around with her. The new hairstyle looks great. It's an outfit that clearly still represents Captain Marvel, but it's just better. When Carol's not on duty, she can kind of wear the top half around her waist like a race car driver does. and it gets bonus points for allowing Goose to grip on it while Carol is flying at the epic speeds that Carol flies at. But best of all, Brie had been showing off her workouts for the role, and the new sleeve design allows Carol to show off her raging forearms. But in all seriousness, having her sleeves be that particular length made her look really cool, and in my obviously biased opinion, are a wonderful defining feature of a great super outfit. And I can't think of a better way to wrap up a video titled Niche of Mainstream than with a review of Captain Marvel's sleeves. Have a great 2024, everyone.
Bullshit.